Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 31 of the Drop It Weight Loss Wellness Wisdom Podcast. If it's your first time on the show, welcome. I'm your host, Nick Geoppo, and 5 years ago, I lost 110 pounds after a lifetime of losing and then gaining weight back. And I've since dedicated my life to helping other people feel better about their own lives, feel better in their own bodies, and build self-belief by losing weight and actually keeping the weight off. So if that's something that you're looking to do and something that sounds like you'd like to do, then this is the podcast for you. If you're a repeat listener, please go ahead and give us a rating either on Spotify or on Apple, an honest review anywhere from 1 to 5 stars. Any ratings really help us get this podcast out to other people that would also benefit from it. And it would just make me feel really good. It's the best thing that you can do to support me as a creator and to support what we're building here and our movement online. So thank you in advance. Episode 31 is brought to you by the Drop It community. That's our very own weight loss community. It just went live at the first of this month, so about 2 weeks ago, and it's been so rewarding working with all of you that are in there and seeing so much success so fast when it comes to weight loss. I'm excited to continue to be on this journey with all of you. So many listeners to this podcast are in the community. It's all of the structure, all the guidelines, all the inspiration, and all the motivation you need to stick to the structure and the guidelines. So if you're looking to lose weight and you're struggling, of course, there's a ton of free information here in this podcast. If you need help with actually implementing a lot of this information, that's the structure and the motivation that is provided in the community. So go ahead and click the link in the description of this podcast episode, and you can find all of the information there, or shoot me a message on Instagram if you have any specific questions about whether or not this is the right community for you. Looking forward to seeing you on the inside and to being on this journey with you and seeing you take control of your own life. Episode 31, today we're talking about this topic of undereating, eating too little. I'm going to say some things that are going to really challenge everything that you know or believe or think about dieting and weight loss and high calorie versus low calorie food. So for the sake of this podcast, to get the maximum takeaway from this, do your best to try to come in with an open mind. Always question everything you hear, including what you hear from me. Always question things that other people say. But for the sake of this episode, let's just pretend like you don't know anything about nutrition. You don't know anything about calories. You don't know anything about weight loss or calorie deficits or diets or any of this. It's going to help you really develop more of a frame rooted in common sense, which is ultimately what I teach and ultimately what I preach. And it's what's built into the Drop It community. Is the common sense diet is something that I talk about all the time, right? At some point, we just completely lost touch with common sense and started eating ultra low calorie foods and started eating too little and then feeling like shit from eating too little because we're super malnourished and then quitting and then gaining the weight back, even if we only make it 1 or 2 days. Some of us were fortunate enough to make it all the way down to our weight loss goal, like I did every single year from 2013 to 2019 by drastically undereating, losing 50 plus pounds every year, and then being so malnourished by the time I got there, realizing that what I did was unsustainable and then just gaining all of the weight back. But a lot of us never took it that far, right? I'm a quite obsessive person. Let me take that back. I was a quite obsessive person when it came to what I ate. I no longer am. But at that time when I was losing all the weight, I was fucking obsessed with food. Food just controlled my life. It controlled my thought. I only felt good when I was losing weight. I felt like shit when the scale wasn't moving. I felt like shit when I would eat like shit. I felt confident in myself only when I lost at least 2 pounds in the week. And it was just this fucking horrible relationship with everything. I was destined for failure. And so much had to change. One of the biggest lessons that I learned that I want you to take away from this episode is that low calorie and healthy are not the same. So we have high calorie and low calorie foods, and then we have healthy and unhealthy foods. Now, people want to say that there's no such thing as healthy and unhealthy foods. Yes, there are. And you can still eat food that is unhealthy without demonizing the food. So a lot of the community around eating disorders, a lot of the community around developing healthy relationship with food, I feel actually have it wrong. That process did not work for me. This idea of saying, well, all foods are real and all foods are healthy, it didn't work for me at all. Because what I did was I took that so far that I would just go, I can just kind of eat whatever I want. It's almost like I had too much leeway, too much compassion for myself without holding myself to a certain standard or strictness, right? I want you to really question everything that you've ever heard before. This idea that all foods are healthy or all foods are real, it is not true. There are foods that are unhealthy and there are foods that are healthy. And it's a scale, right? I mean, it's a spectrum. By healthy, I really mean nourishing. like real, like foods that are close to occurring in nature, like foods that humans have been eating before 150 years ago. When you really think about the history of food, it's like no one was ever fat, and then we started eating more bullshit, and now everybody's fat. That's quite bizarre, right? We want to say that we don't know why we're fat. Like, yes, we do. At the core, we do know why. It's because we've been eating like shit, and we're also not moving our bodies. We're also depressed and lonely, isolated, separated, working jobs that we don't like. Cortisol levels are high because we're constantly stressed. We're on our phone all the time. Like, we know objectively why we're fat, yet very few of us actually write those things down and then do the work backwards to unlearn some of this programming that we have learned throughout our entire lives of never receiving proper education and just prioritizing our short-term pleasure over our long-term self-respect or our long-term health. Oh my God, that was a rant. That's how you know this podcast is unscripted. That was, I think I blacked out for the last 2 minutes. I don't even know what I said. So thanks for being here with me, but it felt like the truth when I said it. When I really think about it, that really felt like my truth. The reality is that there are foods that are healthy. There are foods that are unhealthy. There are foods that are high calorie. There are foods that are low calorie. When we diet, we're so focused on the idea of eating less calories. And the reason why is because you have to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight. A calorie deficit means that you have to eat less calories than you burn. Now, there's this thing called maintenance calories. And for some of us, this is so basic because we know, but I didn't know a lot of this stuff when I was dieting. I would just eat less and try to figure it out, or use a calculator and try to figure it out. But this is the really basics that you need to understand here in the next 45 seconds. You have something called maintenance calories. What that means is if you just laid in bed all day and never moved, how much would you need to eat to stay the same weight? Let's say, for example, it's 2,000, right? I'm making that number up. You can use a calculator online to figure that out. Now, to lose weight, you have to consume less than 2,000 calories in this scenario. Yours might be anywhere from 1,400 to 2,300. Let's say you want to go in a 20% calorie deficit. What you're going to do is take 2,000 and multiply it times 0.8. So by 80%. And that'll get you 1,600. So your goal is to eat 1,600 calories a day. Now, this idea of volume eating is probably something you've heard of. So I want to eat as much food as possible so that I feel full on my 1,600 calorie goal, right? And this community is not about counting every calorie. The common sense diet, and this is a conversation for next week's episode, the common sense diet is about doing the work up front so that you're naturally eating in a calorie deficit by building 5 or 10 go-to meals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then just standardizing on more foods, and then creating rules for yourself when you go out that are easy to follow and not an inconvenience to your life. That's how you lose weight and keep it off. This community is not for the people that want to count every single calorie that they consume for the rest of your life, because the way you lose weight dictates how sustainable your results are. So the idea that you're going to go for 5 months, count every single gram of everything and weigh everything that goes into your mouth, what's going to happen is you're never going to learn how to exist without constantly counting and obsessing over it, and also dreading food, because it's such a pain in the ass to eat a stir fry when you have to weigh out every single little gram of rice and every little minced piece of beef that you're eating. So that's not what this community is about. That being said, you have to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight. Now, people want to tell you to volume eat, meaning how can I get as much volume of food as possible? Now, volume eating is all about prioritizing low-calorie foods. So if you want to volume eat 1,600 calories, this is so extreme. It might be like 1 pound of lettuce, like 2 full bags of lettuce, 2 tomatoes, 1.5 pounds of chicken, and just a lot of volume, like so much food, right? The problem with all of this low-calorie shit, the idea of volume eating, it just doesn't make sense most of the time because... well, for a couple reasons. Typically, when you're volume eating, you're not actually getting the right amount of nourishment, right? So you could eat 1,600 calories of lettuce. What if that was 5 pounds of lettuce? I'm totally pulling this number out of my ass. If 5 pounds of lettuce was 1,600 calories, which is your goal for the day, how are you going to feel eating 1,600 calories of lettuce, which is a whole, real, natural food? It's just not a super nourishing one, right? It's not a man-made food. Like, lettuce is a naturally occurring food, a vegetable, right? And vegetables are good for us. But if you just eat high volume food, that doesn't make you feel nourished. You don't necessarily feel full when you eat lettuce. Like, imagine eating a full bag of lettuce. It wouldn't impact your hunger at all. So that's the most extreme example, right? Imagine 1,600 calories of lettuce versus 1,600 calories of a pound of beef with a quarter pound of chicken later in the day, which that is a ton of meat. Most people are not eating 1 full pound of meat every day. I eat about 1 to 1.5 pounds of meat right now, and sometimes I get a little meated out. Most people, 99% of people, do not eat a full pound of meat every day. But it is a really great thing that you can do for your health should you not be a vegetarian or a vegan, which I know some people are. But if you're able to eat meat, meat is great for you because there's so many vitamins, so many minerals, so much healthy fat, and so much healthy protein in it. But visualize, right, the difference between 5 pounds of lettuce, let's say it's 15 or 20 bags, I have no idea, versus just 1 to 1.5 pounds of meat with a cup of blueberries, 2 apples, an orange on the side, and then a potato with some rice. It might also be in that 1,600 to 2,000 calorie range. Totally guessing on these calorie counts, but visualize those side by side, and the lettuce is a lot more food. That might be 5 pounds of lettuce versus only 2 pounds or 2.5 pounds of more nourishing food, right? So the volume eating people would tell you that you want as many pounds of food as possible, as many ounces, as much weight and volume as possible per calorie. It's just not the right way of looking at it. This idea of calories in versus calories out is not the full story because it doesn't take into account the quality of your food or the nourishment of your food, right? Think about it. It's just not. It's just not. Think about how you would feel after eating all that lettuce. Think about how hungry you would be. Think about the cravings you would have. Think about how you would give in to your cravings, and then you would just end up quitting on Thursday and then restarting on the Monday of next week, right? And God, the lettuce is such an extreme example. Let's look at some other examples here. This idea of eating low-calorie, high-protein ice cream, right? So I talk about all the time. I had a horrible ice cream issue, and I transitioned from eating Dairy Queen Blizzards. For those of you that are not in the United States, a Dairy Queen Blizzard is like a McFlurry from McDonald's, but on crack. It's like 3 times bigger and 7 times the calories probably. But I'd get a large Dairy Queen Blizzard, which might have like 1,800 calories in it. I do it basically every night, right? So when I transitioned from Dairy Queen Blizzards every day to low-calorie, high-protein ice cream, here in the United States, we have pints of ice cream called Halo Top, but every country with supermarkets has something similar to that. About 300 calories, anywhere from 20 to 30 grams of protein. So the macros are really good, low-calorie, high-protein. But imagine eating 3 or 4 pints of those ice cream. They're just easy to eat, right? You can't eat 3 or 4 of them, but you can eat 2 of them pretty easily. And there's a certain lack of satiation that comes with it versus just eating a pint of Ben & Jerry's throughout the week or having 1 scoop. That's not even a good example. Having 1 scoop of Haagen-Dazs ice cream 1 time during the week. And then just savoring it and sitting with it and saying, okay, I feel really good about the fact that I just ate the real ice cream. So I made that transition from Dairy Queen to Halo Top, and I lost 110 pounds, right? That was a part of the journey. 2 or 3 years after I made that transition, I made a bunch of other transitions too, but this was a big one for me, right? After I made that transition, I'd lost weight. Everyone thought that I was healthy. I wasn't necessarily healthy. I still felt like shit. I still had digestive issues. My metabolism just never felt... I can't explain the feeling of your metabolism feeling like it's not high. I just felt like my body wasn't operating the way that it was supposed to, even at my current weight right now, 5 years later. 2 years after I lost weight, so 3 years ago, I still felt like, I looked almost the same, but I still felt like my body just didn't feel right. It's like things didn't move right. I was maybe still had some constipation. I was just kind of low energy, even though I was eating the right amount of calories. The reason why is because I was still eating a bunch of low-calorie alternatives, things like Halo Top ice cream. So what I ended up doing was just transitioning from these low-calorie alternatives to whole, real, natural foods. Things like taking some Greek yogurt and putting some fruit in it. I talk about that all the time, right, with honey. Does it taste as good? No. Does it taste as good over time? Yes, because your palate adjusts. That's a concept that didn't make sense to me when I was fat as fuck, but it is absolutely factual that your palate does adjust. But the thing is, I don't now say that I never eat ice cream. I still eat normal ice cream. I don't eat Dairy Queen Blizzards anymore. But if I'm out on a date or out with friends and it's 100 degrees outside in Texas and we walk by an ice cream place, I'm going to get a scoop of ice cream. That might happen 1 to 2 times per month, right? And when I eat that scoop of ice cream, I sit down and I savor it. And I eat that bite of Haagen-Dazs and I think about, God, this is so good. This is exactly how this was meant to be enjoyed. And I put my phone down and I enjoy conversation and connection with the people around me. And I just eat the fucking ice cream. And then when I'm done, I think, man, that was really good. And then I throw the thing away. And if I want a second scoop of ice cream, I'll just say, that's pretty natural that I would want a second scoop because it's addictive as fuck. But I have the self-control to say no. And I'm really glad that I had that 1 scoop. And I just say that to myself, whether it feels true or not. And then you just walk off. And then a block after walking away, 30 seconds later, you forget that you ever wanted the second scoop, right? Give yourself permission to not keep eating the food. But understand that when I was eating Halo Top every single day, I was eating 15 times more ice cream, maybe 20 times more ice cream than I do right now in 2024. But I felt like shit. And I thought about ice cream all the time. Now I don't ever think about ice cream unless I'm physically eating it. Like I never crave ice cream unless ice cream is right in front of my face and it's 100 degrees outside. Everyone craves ice cream in that case. That's a natural human thing, right? But this idea that you're just going to low calorie your ass to feeling good, to sustainable weight loss, isn't the case for most people. I did it for a long time and it sucked. And I did it because I white knuckled it. I just white knuckled weight loss. And I was running 50 miles every single week and eating these low calorie alternatives. And I never felt energized. I always felt horrible. When I started feeling better is when I said, okay, I'm going to eat more whole, real, natural foods. In this example, Greek yogurt with fruit and honey. And then I'm going to eat normal full ice cream every once in a while. I never eat low calorie alternatives anymore. I'm 5 years after losing 110 pounds. I have not eaten a low calorie alternative in a year, not one bite of anything. It's whole, full foods, full fat foods, no low fat alternatives. That's not to say that you can't ever have a low fat alternative. Don't get me wrong. I would not have lost weight without eating the Halo Tops instead of eating Haagen-Dazs because I hadn't learned any control, right? So there's a time and a place. But really question, where might it make more sense for me to just eat a scoop of Haagen-Dazs ice cream instead of eating this pint of low-calorie, high-protein ice cream, even though it might be the same amount of calories or even a little bit more in the Haagen-Dazs? How much better do you feel after just eating the Haagen-Dazs? The low-calorie shit fucks up your digestion. It gives you this sense of craving and wanting so much more afterwards that's hard to control because you're not satiated. It doesn't feel good when you eat it. It's a low-calorie, high-protein ice cream might be a 6 out of 10. A scoop of Haagen-Dazs might be a 9.5 out of 10, but you have less of it. Go for the less of the 9.5 out of 10 instead of just eating a ton of the 6 out of 10. Hit the quality of your food. Like, get the quality full experience. Experience the food for the way that it was meant to be eaten instead of being afraid of eating full calorie foods. And then what happens so often is we eat all of these low calorie alternatives and we end up drastically undereating. So if you only eat low calorie alternatives and your goal is 1,600 calories per day, like you really cannot get to 1,600 calories a day on low calorie foods easily. You can. It's hard. You're going to be eating a lot of foods. At some point, you got to eat some full food. So people go, well, I can't eat cheese because cheese is high calorie. Cheese is fucking great for you. Unless you have issues with dairy specifically, cheese is such a nourishing food. The fats in cheese are so good for your hormonal balance. Look this up. Like Google, how does cheese impact your hormones? How does cheese impact your energy levels? Cheese is high in fat and high in protein, and it's good protein and good fat. Very, very close to naturally occurring. It's just milk with salt and some enzymes. Like very naturally occurring food, very minimally processed food, right? Cheese is a health food. Eggs are a health food. Again, you shouldn't be eating a half pound of cheese every single day. A 1-inch cube of cheese has 120 calories. That's a lot of calories, right? But you feel an element of satiation. You feel an element of fullness and satisfaction after you eat that 120 calories that don't lead you to overeating or binging later, right? If you can binge cheese, I've absolutely binge eaten and overeaten on cheese, but you can find balance with these foods. Cheese is not to be feared because it's high calorie. It's very healthy and it's very nourishing. Same thing with milk. Same thing with eggs. Same thing with fatty meat, like 80% lean ground beef is really 73% lean ground beef, whatever the fattiest one you could buy, is good for you. Those are good fats. To lose weight, you could eat lower calorie beef. You can go 93.7 for like probably 40% less calories. I'm guessing on that, 30 or 40% less calories. That might support you in weight loss. But over time, understand that you can't eat 93% lean beef forever because it just doesn't give you the same energy. Though it is healthy, you don't be afraid of the full fat. Don't be afraid of the full calorie meal, right? It's about balance. It's about a balance of low calorie foods with high calorie nourishing foods. So again, bringing it back to the beginning, we have high calorie and low calorie, and then we have healthy and not as healthy, or nourishing and not very nourishing, right? Have a balance. We want to eat as much nourishing food as possible or as much healthy food as possible. And in that healthy, nourishing corner of the graph that I'm drawing in my mind here, we want as a balance of high calorie and low calorie. We don't want all low calorie. When you're all low calorie, you might be undereating. When you undereat, your metabolism gets fucked up. I underate my way to weight loss, and there was a looseness to me that took me 2 years to look normal. It took me so long to even be comfortable with just how much muscle mass I had lost because I underate so fast, because I wanted to lose weight so fast. I regret it. I fucked up. I fucked up on my weight loss journey, even though I kept the weight off because I white-knuckled it for years and then eventually was like, I need to eat more whole, real, natural foods because I feel like shit. If I could go back, I would have just started with eating more whole, real, natural foods. And you can learn from the mistake that I made by just doing that right now. You're going to feel so much better. I'm jealous of the fact that you have access to this information because I never did. And there were so many people giving me false shit about like, oh yeah, well just eat these low-calorie, high-protein protein bars. Eat these low-calorie, high-protein cereal, Cocoa Puff alternatives. It's like, I felt like absolute garbage. Here's the actual answer. Eat more whole, real, natural foods, meat, fruit, rice, vegetables, potatoes, dairy products, or some other minimally processed foods. The most of the time. It doesn't have to be all the time. And have a combination of high-calorie and low-calorie ones. Your high-calorie ones might be your fatty meats and your cheeses. Might even be like nuts sometimes, right? Nuts are super high-calorie. Might even be some ghee or some butter. I'm not a big olive oil guy, but it might be a little bit of olive oil, right? Olive oil is a great example. If you cut out olive oil from your diet, you're probably going to lose weight because it's 120 calories per tablespoon. But if you've eaten 1,400 or 1,500 calories of food and you just put a tablespoon of olive oil in your stir fry, how much better would that stir fry have been and then got you to the 1,600 calories? That stir fry would be so much better versus just cooking it in your super lean meat that doesn't have much fat on it, so everything's kind of dry and kind of burnt tasting, right? Like, you have to enjoy your food. And eating only low-calorie alternatives is not as enjoyable. It decreases your metabolism. You're going to have way less nutrients, things that we don't talk about because it's in the weeds and it's in the science. And it's almost against the common sense diet to dive in on all these different vitamins and minerals and things that you see in MyFitnessPal when you click on the nutrients thing and things that you see in your blood work. But just know that if you want to hit all of these things without obsessing over it, if you want to hit all your vitamin levels, all your calcium levels, all of your fiber counts and everything that we just don't really pay that much attention to because there's too much calculation, too much logging, just eat more whole, real, natural foods because those are the highest forms of nutrients that you can consume. When you eat these low-calorie alternatives, they're robbed of their nutrients. They're chemically made sugars. It's not real, naturally occurring sugar. It's extracted sugar that's then put into something, right? It's like the sugar from the cane plant is extracted from the cane plant and then put into ice cream versus just eating the sugar in its natural form, in the form of an apple, right? The sugar is digested the same in the body in those two cases. The difference is the delivery mechanism. The difference is that you don't have the same spike in blood sugar level and develop insulin resistance from eating too many apples because you have enough fiber in the apple that the sugar is released much slower and it's released much deeper into your gut, into your digestive system, so that you don't have the same spike and then crash. You also I said this to someone said this to someone recently and they laughed. I meant it as a joke, and then in reflection, it's actually true. I've never met anyone that got fat from eating too many apples. I know a bunch of fat people, including myself, that got fat from eating too much ice cream. Sugar is sugar. Yeah, sugar is sugar, but the delivery method is different, right? That being said, eat some fucking ice cream. Is ice cream healthy for you? No, it's not. McDonald's isn't healthy for you either. Neither is Chick-fil-A, and neither is Domino's Pizza. Neither is the apple pie that your mom makes for you, but eat it every once in a while and give yourself permission to sit with it. We think that ultra low calorie foods are better for us because they help you lose weight, and that's true. They do. Give yourself permission to do what it takes for you to not hate your food and to not feel like shit when you eat it. And if that means adding some higher calorie nourishing foods might be like real bacon or fatty meat or cheese or eggs. Like, these things are pretty high calorie, right? That's not the low calorie alternative. Like, think of eggs versus egg whites. Eggs are way more calorie. Egg whites it's just liquid, right? But they're just not as satiating. They don't feel as good in your body. You don't feel as full and as energized after eating them. Yeah, that's because there's less calories in them. Calories are energy. You need calories to live. Most of us that are dieting, quote unquote dieting, are under eating too much. If you under eat your way to weight loss, it is likely not going to be sustainable unless you make drastic overhaul changes where it's your number one mission in life. That's the situation that I was in. I underate my way to weight loss. You don't have to do the same thing. I regretted it. I paid the fucking price. I paid the price. And in some ways, I still do pay the price. I paid the price. You don't have to pay the price anymore. Low-calorie tortillas are a good one as well. Everyone's always asking about these low-calorie, high-fiber tortillas. They're like 50 or 60 calories. They're massive, like 12 to 14-inch tortillas, over a foot long, and they're really high in fiber. They're the high-fiber, low-calorie tortillas. How do you feel after you eat those? And should you just eat a real tortilla 2 to 3 times a week? You would consume 120 calories or 200 calories instead of 40 or 50. So you'd be 100 to 150 calories more on those 2 or 3 days. But how much better would you feel? Like a lot better. So much better. And you're going to enjoy the food, and you're going to be less likely to then overeat later in the day because you're not satiated and you have these cravings, right? So just give yourself permission to eat some real food, guys. Of course, you have to be in a calorie deficit, but you don't have to obsess over every calorie. And you're naturally going to be in a calorie deficit most of the time by eating more whole, real, natural foods, stepping into common sense, and focusing on the quality of your food in addition to the calories in your food. You don't want to be drinking olive oil by the tablespoon or eating cheese by the half-pound block, but eat a piece of cheese. When you make a stir fry, put a half a tablespoon or a tablespoon in the stir fry. And that's fine. It's okay. Give yourself permission to eat more whole, real, natural food. You're going to feel better. You might lose weight slower than eating all low-calorie alternatives, but I promise you're going to feel like shit if you only eat low-calorie alternatives. And unless you have a real reason to maintain weight, mine was to run ultramarathons and longer distances. So I had a real motive to keep the weight off, but I was still eating low-calorie alternatives for the first 2 years up until like 2021. Unless you have a reason that's going to keep you there, just don't do it. You don't have to obsess about it the way that I did. The common sense diet in this community, in this podcast, is all about how to not obsess over food. The way to not obsess over food is to focus on nourishment first. How can I make these foods a little more natural, a little more whole, real, a little bit less ingredients? And then how can I have a good variety of high, medium, and low-calorie foods? That's it. That is sustainable weight loss. You absolutely have what it takes to lose weight and keep the weight off. Calories are not everything, but you do have to be in a calorie deficit, and you can do it in a way that's not a total pain in the fucking ass, unlike the way that I did, but I had to learn the hard way. Thanks for listening to this podcast rant. This one was a little bit off the cuff. I had some coffee a little bit later in the day than I typically do, and now it's 5 o'clock on a weekday, and I'm feeling a little bit caffeinated. So thanks for bearing with me on this one. I appreciate everybody being here, and just continuously remind yourself. So much of developing self-talk is about developing self-trust, right? So I talk about this all the time. You have to believe that you have a shot in hell at losing weight and keeping the weight off. If you think there's a 0% chance that you have what it takes, then you don't have what it takes. So people ask me all the time, well, Nick, do I have what it takes to lose weight? And I just ask them the same question. Do you have what it takes to lose weight? And no. Oh, then you don't, right? Like then this isn't the podcast for you, right? This podcast is for people that are like, I think I might. I think there is at least a 0.01% chance that I might have a shot at doing it. If you don't think you have the 0.01% chance, you could look at my story and see that I did it, and I was a fat fuck that was so uncomfortable and so not confident that I couldn't even look people in the eye when I talked to them, and now I speak as a major part of a living for myself in my job and on this podcast and in the community, right? So you absolutely can turn things around. I didn't have shit and grew up with no money, unhealthy relationship with food, and no dad. So you can, right? So much of developing an inner voice, a positive inner voice, and developing self-belief is by saying you're going to do something and then doing it. So if you take away anything from this podcast outside of eat more real food, it's that if you don't believe in yourself, look in the mirror, tell yourself that you're going to go on a 10-minute walk in the morning, take a video of yourself saying, I'm going to go on a 10-minute walk in the morning, and then wake up and then go on the 10-minute walk. Wake up 10 minutes earlier than you normally do. If you don't have the time and you normally sleep 7 hours, sleep 6 hours and 50 minutes tonight just one time to develop some self-belief. Get up 10 minutes earlier, go on the walk. Go look at the video when you're done with the walk of you saying the night before that you're going to go walk for 10 minutes. And then feel, what does that feel like? What does it feel like that you just said you were going to do something and then you did it? Okay, well, I believe that now you believe that you have what it takes to go on a 10-minute walk, right? Because you just did, yes. Do you believe that you have what it takes to go on a 10-minute walk tomorrow? You probably, yeah, because you just did. Okay, do that every day for 2 weeks. What if you went on 20-minute walks instead? I don't know if I could do it. Well, let's just do it. Can you do it one time? Gun to your head, could you go on a 20-minute walk one time? If you got $10 million for going on a 20-minute walk one time, could you do it? Yes. Okay, let's go on the 20-minute walk. Okay, I did a 20-minute walk one time. Do you think you have what it takes to do it tomorrow? Yeah, probably. What if we committed to doing that for 2 weeks? Now we're a month in and we have a sustainable 20-minute morning walk routine. Wow, that's phenomenal. How much better do you feel now that you're going on 20-minute walks? Now that you're on this 20-minute walk and you're outside and you're like, oh, I'm healthy. This is kind of like what a healthy person does. Now you start associating with a little bit more of a healthy person. You start thinking, oh, okay, well, I might have a 0.1% chance. I didn't think that I did. Or I thought I had a 0.1. Now I think I got a 0.2% chance of losing weight and keeping the weight off. That is fucking progress. That's how you develop self-belief. By saying you're going to do something and then doing it, over time, you start believing more and more. You start taking more and more actions that lead to sustainable weight loss, and you become a totally different person. And then as soon as you develop self-belief, it carries over into every single area of your life. Your finances, your happiness, your relationships, all these things are so fucking directly correlated to each other. This podcast isn't even about weight loss. It's not even about weight loss. I told you that this podcast was about weight loss because I know that you want to lose weight, and it's because weight loss is what I know more about than almost anything in this world. Right? I feel like I know more about weight loss than I know almost any other topic, but it's not even about weight loss. It's about believing in yourself. This podcast is Drop It, Weight Loss, Wellness, Wisdom, self-belief, developing your inner wisdom, getting to know who you are, starting to understand that, oh, if I have what it takes to do a 20-minute walk, then I probably have what it takes to work on my relationship. Probably have what it takes to make 20% more money this year. What would that look like, right? And if I had a little bit of a better relationship with my wife or my husband or my kids, and I made 20% more money this year, what would that look like? How would that change my life? And then through that change in my life, now my partner has more respect for me because I have a routine. Through having a routine, I feel better. I smile more. Now that I smile more, my partner treats me different. My coworkers treat me different. My kids listen to what I say more, and that's kind of weird. I didn't think that was going to be a byproduct. Everything starts kind of falling into place. You start going, whoa, I have way more control over my life than I ever thought. All because one day I took a video of myself saying I was going to go on a 10-minute walk, and then I fucking did it. But the reality of the world is that the reason why so many people lose weight, but so few people keep the weight off, is because they never believed that they had what it took to keep the weight off. The reason why they never believed it is because they never actually intentionally took the steps to practice saying things and doing them to develop self-trust and self-belief. The difference between the people that achieve their weight loss goals and the people that just consume content about weight loss is that they actually do it. So for your understanding here, and this is going to blow some people's mind, right? We have this podcast right now, I think, is top 30 or 40 in the world when it comes to on the nutrition topic, and it's top, I don't know, it changes every day, like 120 or 130 in fitness and health and fitness. So a lot of people listen to this podcast, right? I maybe 10 to 12 episodes ago, like 2 or 3 months ago, said in an episode, everyone listening to this podcast, if you really want to lose weight and keep the weight off, take a video of yourself for 30 to 60 seconds talking about why you want to lose weight and then send it to me on Instagram. Maybe 2,000 to 3,000 people listen to that podcast and one person sent me the video. To give you an idea of why nobody keeps the weight off, one person sent me the video. Like, think about, it's because we don't actually step into action, right? And I don't blame you, because I was not one of the one for 5 years in a row, but my life just got so bad that I was like, I need to be the fucking one. I need to be the one. You can be the one. Let's make it 2 out of 3,000 on this episode, right? Whatever that looks like. But really just try this. What I'm saying is just try taking a fucking video of yourself and just see what happens. Like, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? Watch 10 minutes less of Netflix tonight and just do that. But people just don't do it, because in a way, envisioning losing weight and imagining losing weight is almost as addictive as the feeling of it. It almost feels as good to just like picture ourselves on a weight loss journey, or to say that we're committed to weight loss, but then like not really actually take the actions. Here's an action that you can take. And I hope that your takeaway from this last 5 minutes is that 1 out of 2 or 3,000 people sent me the video. Do you actually want to lose weight, or are you just consuming content about it? I was just consuming content about it for like 5 years. So I don't blame you, because I get it. But you do have a choice where you can just start actually stepping into action by going on a 10-minute walk tomorrow morning, videoing yourself. You can send me the video if you want. And eating more whole, real, natural foods. That's it. All sustainable weight loss is eating healthier foods in healthier portion sizes and moving your body in a way that's sustainable for you without obsessing about it. That's it. Thank you, everybody, for making it to the end of this ranty episode. We were going to end the podcast 10 minutes ago, but I'm just really in the talking mood today, and hope that everybody has a great rest of your week. For those of you that are not in the Drop It community, if you're very serious about weight loss and you feel you might need some more accountability and some more structure, click the link in the description of the podcast episode. Start the Common Sense Diet today. You hear me talk about it all the time. If you want to actually start the Common Sense Diet with structure, this is the best place to do it. We will see you on the inside, and we will see you next week.